Hello all, I'm Sai and you're watching The Book Dragon. In today's video, I'm bringing to you my April hopefuls list. You heard me right, I'm not going to make a TBR for April because I've been reading a lot in the past 3 months and I don't want to read as much in April because it seems a bit tiring for me. So I'm going to take a little break and read in a very chill way. So I've included only very short books in this TBR also. Another thing which I want to tell you guys is that I'm going to read only one fantasy book probably in April because I've been reading so much fantasy also lately and I'm kind of in a rough patch. I'm not saying that the fantasy books that I'm reading are not good. I'm just saying that I've been reading so much of it to an extent that it feels a bit jarring for me. So I'm going to take a little break and then get into fantasy back in May. I'm also focusing on bringing down my physical TBR, which has over 100 books on my shelf. I have brought down that number in March itself significantly. I'm planning to do that in the further months of the year also. So yeah, without any further ado, let's get into the books right away. The first book in the list is a historical fiction novel and it is The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. Here we follow our two female main characters, of which one is an apothecary named Nella from 18th century London, and what happens during that time is she's a very special type of apothecary who does the service of selling disguised poisons to women who have oppressive men in their lives in order to deal with them. And what happens during that time is there's this 12-year-old who does something very small in its magnitude, but the thing that she does sparks a chain reaction which has its reflection almost even 200 years after her mistake. And a second character is a historian named Caroline in present day London, and she's celebrating her 10th anniversary all alone with her inner demons alone. And during this time what happens is she accidentally stumbles upon an evidence which might help in solving the apothecary murders that have been happening in London for the past 200 years. Due to a certain twist of events, the story of our main apothecary from the 18th century London and our historian in present day London come together and a mystery plot progresses on. I usually like mystery stories a lot after having read Truly Devious as well as some of the Sherlock Holmes stories. I'm expecting a lot from this and it is also quite a very short book. I've heard really good things about it as well from the people whom I follow on the internet. So let's just wait and see how I feel about it. The next book is the only fantasy book which I talked about in the beginning of the video itself, and it is Muse of Nightmares by Laini Taylor. This is the second and final book in the Strange the Dreamer duology. I read Strange the Dreamer far back in 2020 September and I loved that book completely while I read it for the first time. I don't remember it completely to each and every detail that is written by the author, so I'm going to reread it as soon as I finish filming this video. In this series, we follow this librarian named Laszlo Strange, who's an orphan, and he has this only passion of finding this city named Weep, and the name of the city is not Weep, it is something else, and because of one curse which happened years back, the name of the city has been wiped out from the memory of each and every person in the world, and each and every time someone tries to remember about that city, only the word Weep is replaced in their mind. Laszlo gets this dreamlike opportunity to go to Weep and explore all the things that are happening in there. While he goes there, he meets this blue girl named Sarai and all the different things that happen inside the city of Weep. I can say that the writing of this author in this particular series is just fabulous. It will take a little bit of time for you to read, but if you like gorgeous writing, I'm sure that this series is one for you. I personally like beautiful writing very much, and that is one of the main reasons why I want to read the second book also. I think after finishing this duology, I'll be moving on to the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy also. Let's just wait and see, but as of now, I'm definitely going to read this in April after rereading the first book in March itself. Let's just wait and see if I enjoy this as much as I did the first book. The next book in the list is the second book in a YA sci-fi trilogy, and it is Gemina by Amie Kaufmann and Kristoff, which is the second book in the Illuminae Files trilogy. I listened to the first book Illuminae as an audiobook in 2019 first, and I reread it in January of 2022, that is this year. It's been 2 months since I read the first book. I don't want to delay any further, so I'm going to read this in April. In this series, we follow our two main characters, Katie and Ezra, who are inhabitants of this planet named Kerenza, and what happens on a particular day is there's this tech company named Baytech who come and attack Kerenza. Because of this, all the people from the planet have to flee, and they take flight on these two spaceships named Alexander and Hypatia. Katie goes into one spaceship and Ezra goes into the other. They are communicating with each other while they are in the two spaceships, and the main reason why they are communicating with each other and the thing that makes it even more complicated is that Katie and Ezra broke up on the day Kerenza was attacked by Baytech, and after that they were not able to talk at all. Since they are apart from each other, they are able to understand some things that happened in each other's lives, and the story just progresses on from there. There is even this AI inside the story which makes it far cooler. The main reason why I am reading this in April is because from my experience with the first book, this series is very fast-paced because of the multimedia format. I'm sure that I'm going to enjoy this. Let's just wait and see how it is going to be. The next book is a literary fiction book, and it is the Man Booker Prize winner of 2018. It is Milkman by Anna Burns. I've been wanting to read this book ever since 2018 itself because every time I went on Amazon, this is one of the first books to be displayed on the screen always. I was not that much interested in reading literary fiction back then, so I did not buy it at all. I bought it finally last year and it's been sitting on my shelf for over 6 months now, so it's finally time to read it. I've heard that this book is very hard to read in terms of the content. It's not hard to to read in terms of the language or anything, because it is very short and it will not take that much time to read, but the amount of effort and emotional turmoil that will be put into while reading this book is high, is the thing that I've heard continuously from the reviews of this book. I watched a video of Soumya from Soumya's Book Station talking about this book, and the way in which she articulated her thoughts about the book made me want to read this book more. I'm not going to tell about the plot of this book because I don't think I can convey it properly, so I'm just going to read out the blurb for you guys. So if you're interested, you can also pick it up. In this unnamed city, to be interesting is dangerous. Middle sister is busy attempting to keep her mother from discovering her maybe boyfriend and to keep everyone in the dark about her encounter with Milkman. But when first brother-in-law sniffs out her trouble and rumor starts to swell, middle sister becomes interesting. The last thing she ever wanted to be. To be interesting is to be noticed, and to be noticed is dangerous. Milkman is a tale of gossip and hearsay, silence and deliberate deafness. It is the story of inaction with enormous consequences. That blurb itself sounds very serious, and I'm sure that the tone of the book is also going to be just as serious as the blurb. It's been a while since I've read a book which is so serious in its tone, so I'm expecting a lot from this. So I'm having very high expectations for this one. The next book is yet another literary fiction, and it is also a book which was shortlisted for the Man Booker Prize in 2018. It is The Mars Room by Rachel Kushner. I actually bought this one as well as The Milkman together because I've been wanting to read them ever since I saw that they were nominated for the Man Booker Prize in 2018. Now in this book, we follow a woman named Romy from 2003 who has committed a crime, and because of this she is to be sent into this very special facility of women who have committed crimes, and she is to serve 2 consecutive life sentences in there. The worst part about the facility is that it is a very brutal place. The violence is very casual from the prisoners as well as the guards in there. At the same time, the women have to compete for their barest essentials. The one thing which intrigues me the most compared to anything else from the blurb of the book is that our main character Romy in this one is a mother, and she has left her son named Jackson outside before she gets imprisoned inside the facility. I've heard really good things about Rachel Kushner's writing before also. I've not read any of her books before this one. It's going to be my first read from her. The next book is a psychological thriller, and it is the book club pick for us in April. I'm so glad that we deviated away from science fiction and fantasy for the next month, because it's been intense for me in that spot right now. And the book that we are reading in April is Playing Nice by J.P. Delaney. It's a psychological thriller. The premise of this book itself sounded super twisted for me. Here we follow 2 different families with kids in them. That is a couple and their kid in both the families. What happens on a particular day is that one of these couples goes and meets the other couple and reveals a great twist for them in their doorstep. It is that their kids were accidentally exchanged while they were babies in the hospital, and they've been growing up each other's kids for the past few years. Just hearing that itself made me want to read this book just then and there itself. I'm going to listen to the audiobook of this one, and even when I searched and went through the reviews of this book, most of them were very positive and they gave me the vibe that I want from a psychological thriller. I'm so much interested to get into this, and I'm sure that I'll be reading it pretty soon. I hope that it is just as good as it sounds. The last book in this list is the only non-fiction that I've added, and it is 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos by Jordan B. Peterson. I've heard many people talk about this book, and everything that I've said is only positive. I watched many videos of different people who have read this book and reviewed it, and I've heard only wonderful things about this. There is only one thing which I feel as a negative thing that people keep on telling about this book, and it is the fact that it is slow and long and keeps on going, and it feels like it will never end at all. I've heard that same thing that people have stressed again and again as a negative thing about this book, but I'm okay with that kind of writing or that kind of flow when it comes to a non-fiction book, because I know that if the author is taking so much time, they'll probably deliver what they have promised in the beginning of the book. It is also one of the books from my 2022 non-fiction TBR, so if I finish this one, I'll also be taking off one book from my TBR list. Since this is going to take a lot of time for me to read, I have not considered reading any other non-fiction book in April, but I don't know if that will be the case particularly or not, because I might pick up some other non-fiction books also before or after this one. But again, I have really high expectations for this one. Let's just wait and see. So yes guys, those are some of the books which I plan to read in April. This is not a solid TBR from which I'm going to choose and read in April. It's just a structure for me so that I don't gravitate and go for big books and put myself in a slump. Currently I'm feeling a little bit burnt out, and I don't want to make it worse and not being able to read at all. So I'm just going to take these short books and read them happily. If you have a TBR or hopefuls list for April, please do comment them down in the description, because I'd like to know what you're going to read in April. And if you did enjoy watching today's video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also share it to your friends. If you want to get more content from me, do subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.